Hi guys, it's springtime. Maybe for some people it isn't it? But what do we do in spring? Well, we sell our properties. More people come onto the market at this time of year than any other time of the year. Yeah, as we can see right now, we've only got 625 properties right across Fife up for sale in Fife. Last year, 12 months ago, it was 1,200 properties, which means there's a lack of supply. Now is the time to sell. Website activity is up 54% for us, 37% for Rightmove, 40% for Zoopla. So we've got lack of supply, we've got increased demand. There's a recipe for a mini boom. So we're going to talk about what it takes and what top tips you should be using to sell your house in spring. So on today's show, we've got Andrea.
Morning.
Hi, Andrea. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Great stuff. Yeah, thank you. And Jimmy Mullen as well. So, Jimmy, how are you?
Morning, guys. Sun is shining in Springfield, so good day, good start to the day.
All right, so let's get over the show so we can get out. No, but it is key when you think about it. The things that we're going to talk about today is probably sharing some of our secrets. You know, we've got the blog in here anyway, and it tells you straightforward. You can read it yourself in 4 minutes. But the reality is, this is opportunities for you as a viewer to sit and ask us questions which otherwise wouldn't be answered by an estate agent, as to probing our secrets and how we can deliver the end result that you want, which is clearly more money than the home report, and also the circumstances which you want is to get your move-in date to coincide with that time. So we're going to talk about spring tips for 2021 in Fife, how to prepare and present your home for selling for this spring selling season. So, I mean, spring is typically the time of year where it's the largest numbers of buyers start registering with estate agents to find their next home. With lockdown easing and the children returning to school, hurrah! You'll be saying that, Jimmy, eh? Hurrah!
100%.
We can look forward to the Easter and the summer. Family-friendly locations like Dunfermline, Glenrothes, Leven, Cupar, Kirkcaldy, East Neuk and St Andrews see a lot of property market activity, but there's no season quite like spring. Moods start to lift, days get longer and brighter. Thoughts begin to shift from indoor nesting to outdoor fun. The idea of a garden or terrace for summer in a new home goes from a dream to a thought and to action. So while spring is traditionally the time more people are looking to their next home, it's also when more people are looking to sell their existing one, which means it's important to give yourself the best chance of capturing the attention and imagination of potential buyers. Fortunately, spring is one of the easiest times of year to maximize the chances of your sale without a major effort, because nature's on your side. From the sun in the sky to everything on the ground. So there's 7 suggestions that we're going to talk about today to help you make the most of selling your home in spring. Andrea, what's the first suggestion that you would say? What's the first one on the list?
On your list or on my list?
Yeah, flower. I mean, flower power, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, definitely.
Harness what do we mean by that? What do we mean by harness the power of the flower?
I think flowers always make people feel really welcome. You know, when you're out a walk and you see the spring bulbs beginning to push through the ground, you think, oh, it's fantastic. You know, and then it's a learning experience. You can use it with your children, your grandchildren. What's that kind of flower? And then, you know, you can take that inside as well. You know, have pots of, you know, crocuses and all sorts of things in pots, or even fresh cut flowers. From the local garage, anything, your 99 pence bunch of daffodils is just enough to brighten up your family home.
Effectively, that's what it is, isn't it? I mean, that small amount of money, I mean, a couple of pounds in a vase in the middle of your home could make the fundamental difference in somebody's mindset when they walk into your kitchen or your dining room or your living room. That's the reality. You know, just because they see these flowers, it's we're all designed and we're all geared. We're conditioned, socially conditioned by adverts to suggest that spring is the time of year where we're, running through the fields, enjoying ourselves, bouncing about and all the rest of it. See, Jimmy gets that feeling straight away when I talk about that. You feel it deep down, don't you? You feel it within yourself. And if you can evoke that in somebody in a viewing, then that's what gets them to make an offer. That's the reality. That's what gets them to want to stay there.
It's like in the adverts that you see, you always have I'll say mum or dad now. Mum or dad in the kitchen, putting the flowers in the vase while the kids come running through, playing in the back garden when the sun's shining, and painting the perfect picture. I suppose that's what it's like when you're trying to show your home.
And then it's the adverts you get for lawns and stuff like that. So people have got pure green lawns. They've got daffodils, they've got tulips, they've got bluebells, and it brings spring right to your front door, doesn't it? It's that first impression.
Yeah, I think the lawn's a really good example. I'm very happy to have an artificial lawn. It never needs cut. It's great for pets.
Oh, you cheater!
I'm a cheater, but it was there when I bought the house, and it was one of the selling points.
Do you hoover your lawn, Andrea?
I go out and hoover it, yeah. But you don't need to cut it. But one thing I would say is if you've got dogs and a lawn, a real lawn, and you're going to be selling your house, keep the dogs off the lawn for a while, let the grass regrow, because it will make a much better impression.
I think you got to remember as well, if you're selling, a lot of people will do a drive-by off the area if they're unfamiliar with the area, or just to confirm where the property is. So you never know. As soon as the day you're on the market or with us, you do the pre-launch, you need to be ready and prepared that a buyer could drive past at any given time.
That's effectively it, isn't it? It's curb appeal. The first thing it does. I mean, for everybody out there, what you don't know, and you maybe do it yourself, is when you see a property on the internet, sometimes you don't even contact the estate agent. All you do is you drive around and you have a look at it from the outside. That's another key point. And I know it's not part of this, but that's another key point about why you put a for sale board outside the front of your property. Someone said to me yesterday, it's like, well, you only put a board up to advertise your brand now. It's like, no, you don't. Because the reality is, people don't see your property. They'll just turn around and drive away. They'll think it's not up for sale. It gives them, for some people, it just gives them the wrong impression. It's like, well, it can't be up for sale. It's maybe a mistake. Or they can't find your house because your house looks exactly the same as every other house. Not everybody can work that out, what the photograph and what your house looks like in the street.
Yeah, I think as well, some people might not even be looking at sort of the portals, and some people might be driving down in a certain town, like let's just take one for an example, East Neuk. They're driving past along the front and they see a for sale board in the window. They may be thinking, I've seen that house for 10 years. I don't need to be in the city now, or I don't need to be where I am now. I want that. And that also is a difference, because they're not even looking on the portals, but they see the for sale board and their whole mindset and life just changes in a flash, because they could have been looking at your property for years and you never even know it.
Yeah, I mean, it's curb appeal. It's the impression people get when they look at photographs as well, because they've got the flowers in bloom now. It just gives them that visual impression that, you love your home, so they're going to love your home as well. Sarah Beanie talks about it quite a lot. She says, how on earth are you going to be able to sell a home to someone else if you don't love it yourself? That's the reality. That's what it comes down to. So continue the floral flow. Place a fresh bouquet of flowers in the hallway, on the table, on the dining room table, as I said, on the breakfast bar in the kitchen. While any bedraggled-looking window boxes, make sure you sort them out from last summer. Don't just leave them with overgrown moss and straggled. You get the spider plants and it's like, weeded, withered bits hanging off it and that. Get rid of these bits, cut them off. The plant's not going to complain, so don't worry about that. It doesn't, you do prune plants. So that's the reality. So that's the flower power. That's the harness, the whole thing. The first impression is people see your property from the front and they just go, wow, I'm going to love this house. A couple of pot plants as well, at the front door. Just invest, nip down to B&Q, and invest in a couple of pot plants with flowers, stick them at your front door, and it's just a welcome for you to walk through the door.
Yeah, I think that's why I managed to get my house, actually, is because the drive was stone chipped, but there was grass coming up all between the stones, because they just hadn't raked it and put some more stones on it and got rid of it, and people were not
That's quite another good idea, Jimmy, what you just said. I mean, even to get a bag of stones and then remix them into your existing stones to just give them a freshen up, and also to weed or just put weed killer down, because better than no weeding at all is weed killer, obviously. But if you don't want to do that, then weed your drive. You know, weed between the cracks, all the rest of it. Just give that first impression when you come in the front door. So, as Marie Kondo says, clear out your cupboards, your closets, your clothing, your clutter. While you do this, make sure you clean those odd little spaces that you never noticed before, behind the chest of drawers, above the wardrobe, the cupboard under the stairs, and see for yourself just what a difference it makes. Decluttering really gives us a palatable sense of order. Well, I was ringed the other day in St Andrews, and we talked about new builds. And we talked about the Lalandis and you know, we're up there, and the conifers as well. And we said, you know, when you take these away, and almost like decluttering your garden, you've recovered about 2 meters right around the whole perimeter of the property. And so when you put that into perspective, wow, that's got some amount of land. I mean, that's got a closing date for next Friday. I think there's about 20 viewers lined up to view that property, and that's going to go for a good price. You know, I think everybody's going to be happy in that transaction.
Yeah, I believe certainly will. Well, I would say, let's just say your cupboard space as well. People would expect you to have your cupboard to have stuff in it. So people always say, "Oh, I've got so much stuff in my cupboards," blah 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 blah. But ultimately, that's your home, so you still got to live there. But what you got to do is make it neat and tidy, so that people can see that the space that you do have, you can utilize it and use there.
Unless you're like me and you put everything in the cupboard and you close it.
Yeah, that's what.
And nobody opens it because it'll all fall out. Like a Scooby-Doo film.
That's normal.
They're not selling anytime soon, but that is how our cupboards is. That you just need to be prepared for everybody, because you do have those people you have viewers that are they fall in love with the first thing they see, but you see other people that are picky and look at the finer details and want to knock on all the walls or test all the handles and stuff like that. Obviously not now with COVID, but you do have viewers like that. So you need to be making sure that you just leave no stone unturned to give yourself the best chance, really. Yeah,
I mean, it is declutter, isn't it, Andrea?
Yeah, I would also say that, you know, while you're decluttering, just have a screwdriver or something handy to tighten up the hinges on the cupboard doors. If somebody tries to open it and the drawer falls off its runner or the cupboard falls off its hinge, it's not a great start. So, and it'll only take a few minutes, and it doesn't need a degree in mechanical engineering to tighten up a few screws.
Kitchen doors do it for me. I was round at somebody's property the other day just doing a viewing, and I noticed the kitchen door was rubbing against the other one. Mm-hmm. So I had to get the knife out the drawer and actually adjust it just to get it straight so it closes perfectly and there's no rubbing. And then I looked round the whole perimeter and said, "Is that all square to everything else in the way that door sits?" I mean, that's getting out. That is an nth degree, but when you think about the reality is, some people like me probably focus on that.
Yeah.
Well, it's like an OCD thing. It's the same if somebody's got one of these carpets that when you take the hoover over it leaves the lines on it. I hate seeing lines on a carpet. I know it means it's been hoovered, but you then see all the footprints on it. So I don't know whether a carpet with lines on it is a good sign or not.
I like it.
You've had the lawnmower over it. So, wait a minute, hold it, Andrea. So what you're saying is you hoover your grass, but you mow your carpet.
Carpets, yep.
So it's flipped round then. So we're wanting stripes on the carpet, but we don't know. Okay, we'll leave that there. So it really is about decluttering, isn't it? You know, that's the key thing. And just walk round, and you know, you've lived in the house for a long time yourself. The reality is, so you don't know that the house is probably cluttered. But when you look around and you have a fresh pair of eyes from your estate agent, when they walk around and you ask them for the honest truth, you know, they'll tell you straight away. I mean, or we tell you straight away. It's like, well, declutter the worktop. You know, when you're getting a viewing, take the stuff off the worktop, all the stuff that you use from day to day, because you'll not necessarily need all these things, but it just makes it look like there's no activity space to do anything. And I know you want to do that, but the other person might not want to do that anyway. So they just want to know where they can prepare food, they can plate food, They can, they can put their dirty dishes later on. They just want to know if that works for them. The ergonomics of the whole thing, really, that's what it comes down to.
I think if people see a cluttered area, then they'll think that there isn't enough space in the property. So if the people that are living there at the moment are struggling to find space for stuff, then how would it work for them?
Yeah. So this brings me nicely on to one of the other things is fruity freshness. A large, well-stocked bowl of colourful seasonal fruit on the coffee table or the kitchen worktop as a quick fix centrepiece. An additional benefit as being a delicious to look at. A basket of veggies in the kitchen tells viewers that the real cooking happens here, whether that's family or friends. Contemporary plants like ZZ, jasmine, peace lilies, and succulents in more modern pots, minimalist, white and concrete grey, I would say, and mysterious tones, maybe the pot, can add a touch of life and Instagram hip, because everybody's judging when they go round, aren't they? That's the reality. It's just to give that impression. And if you've got things like, if you've got an old banana, it's fusty in the corner, it's not going to look great. It just gives the wrong impression. Because I always say to a lot of sellers, like, you don't want anything to detract the buyer from the fact that they're around to see the property.
Yeah.
So having mouldy fruit in a bowl is really going to, they're just going to start talking about that. That's the thing they're going to remember, possibly. They're not going to remember the fact that your kitchen was wow. They're going to walk in and go, there was about 3 bananas decaying in the corner in different seasons, or things like that. And the classic, the spider plants were like, they were just withering away in the corner on the windowsill. That's what a lot of people often do, don't they? They just put the plant on the windowsill and that's it. They just leave it to fend for themselves.
The spider plants are very 70s though, weren't they? I remember people cutting off the long dangly bits and then repotting them to get even more spider plants.
What can I say? I'm a 70s kind of guy.
Yeah.
Bring back disco. So, fruity freshness. What's your top tips as well, Jimmy?
Yeah, I'd agree with you. It's key to keep it fresh and bright and add a bit of colour. But the key thing is, if you're going to do it, you either need to do it and do it properly, or don't do it at all, because you don't want to leave it there and then, as you say, get them distracted from actually what they're meant to be doing there, and that's viewing the property. So you either do it or don't do it at all, basically, is my advice. Looking
at your plants as well, just wipe them down with a bit of cotton wool and warm water, just to make sure that all that dust's off the, you get people with rubber plants and they've got years and years of dust on the whole thing. It's and it just looks unsightly. It also gives the impression distinctly that you probably didn't look after and tidy your house. That's coming back to make sure everything's dust free to a degree. I'm not saying perfect. Your house doesn't need to be sterile. So didn't get that impression at all. It's just at first impressions when someone walks in the door for the first time. A classic as well, when I go around to see a lot of customers, is when I walk in the door, I just go, wow, that's brilliant, that's fantastic, that's beautiful. And then they go, but what about this, what about that, and what about this? And I thought, I didn't notice that. I didn't notice that at all, because I was too busy looking at everything else. It was fantastic. But they don't realise, they don't focus on that anymore. They focus on the wee small things, which almost are incidental to a degree. So don't get too carried away. Don't get too carried away with cleaning your house from top to bottom. It doesn't need to be perfect. There is circumstances that people understand you've got to live in it. If you've got a family of 5 children, that's going to be a bit of a challenge to actually keep that tidy all the time. So that's not going to be a reality. I had the comment yesterday when I went round to see somebody in St Andrews. It's like they talked about Armit Place, and they said about Armit Place, and they went, well, ours isn't like that, because Armit Place is like a catalogue house. And they were apologising before they even got in the door for their house. And then when I walked around their house, it was absolutely beautiful. There was nothing wrong. It's like, but they didn't see it like that, and yet I thought it was absolutely fantastic. So it's nice to have a fresh pair of eyes to give you that first impression, to let you understand what it'll be like for a viewer for the first time.
Yeah, I say that to people all the time as well, is that you got to find the right balance. Obviously, you want it clean, tidy, good curb appeal, but you want it to feel like a home as well. So, because ultimately that is 99% of the time, unless it's an investment, it's going to be someone else's phone. So they need to get that warm, fuzzy feeling when they walk through the door, probably like they did when they purchased the property. So to keep it neat, tidy, wipe down the dust of dust is going to give the best chance of that happening.
Yeah, I mean, James is on this morning. Good morning, James. How are you? James is an investor. He does property renovation. He's a landlord as well. So it makes absolute sense that these tips would apply to rental property as well. When people are coming round to view a property for renting, it's top tips for them. Often in areas where some of the houses where nobody really wants to stay there, if your property is immaculate inside, you'll find that a lot of people are not really bothered about the area because hardly anybody speaks to anybody else anyway in most of the streets. So why would they bother? They just want a nice, beautiful house to live in and feel comfortable in their environment. So it applies to the rental property market as well.
Yeah, I mean, if people are seeing photos and stuff on the listing or coming around of a rental property that is pristine, they're going to be thinking, wow, the landlord looks after his tenants here and takes pride in his properties. This is someone that's going to look after me if something does go wrong and be there for me and provide a good property.
That's exactly right, Jimmy. You hit the nail on the head when it comes to that. If you as a landlord look after your property and present it in a certain way, you'll attract the right type of tenant as a result of that. Therefore, you're going to get a better let. You're going to get a person that's going to look after your property more because you've given it. If you give them an old tatty property in the beginning to move into, they're not going to be respectful towards it because that's what you've given them. If you give them something really good at the beginning, then and they will look after it as the result, and you'll attract the right person because of the photographs that you get, on the internet as well when you're showing it.
Exactly. I mean, spending an extra couple of thousand here could be the difference between getting a tenant that stays in there for a year or a tenant that stays in there for 5 years and looks after it. So it's worth going that extra mile for your tenants.
Yeah. James actually says the difference is my houses they're empty for photo shoots and haven't tried staging. James, I'll be honest, in all the years I've been doing property rental in the 30 years, I've never staged a house like that and put furniture in and then took it back out. I've just shown people new carpets, fully decorated, nice kitchens, fitted appliances, are fitted in like oven hob extractor, stainless steel. It's and fresh and clean. That's the reality. That's what people want to see. And then it follows up when they walk around it. We're going to talk about the other things in this, is the smells, the emotive smells that they get when they walk in the door. But we'll talk about that. So we're going to talk about colour depth next. So dark painted rooms are very in at the moment. The grey thing is in just now. And people still expect to have enough daylight to make them appealing, especially in the springtime. If your room is giving more gloom than glam, consider repainting at least one wall in a light tone. It doesn't have to be white. It could be a softer off-white, and it will look more up to date and not jar as so much as darker walls all in the room. I've walked into some rooms and it's been purple all the way around. And it's like, wow. The first impression when you walk in is, it looks good because the naked eye does that. When you take a photograph, purple rooms just didn't go down well when you'd show it. So it's quite challenging to actually get that to show in the right way. So it is a case of, you might want to just do one feature wall in a lighter colour to do that. I mean, if you can add mirrors to reflect back light and even resting a door-sized mirror, on against a wall, it's a very happening look just now where people just come and just look at themselves top to bottom before they walk out the door. And it tells the buyer, this room has space. And that's the sort of the tips as well. I mean, the colour and the depth. What are your thoughts on that, Andrea?
While dark colours can work on a feature wall, I think you have to be really careful about how many bits of furnishing you've got in it, how you position your paintings, how much light is coming into the room. Oops, my earphone's just fallen out. How much light's coming into the room, and and what the colour is. I mean, you might really like a purple. Purple's not everybody's favourite colour, and some people just want to be able to move into a house and not do anything for a while. When I moved into this house, actually the wall behind me had black wallpaper with bright pink big flowers on it. And I got the keys at 5 o'clock and I stripped the paper off by 6 o'clock. So I mean, probably people coming in wouldn't like the wallpaper that I've got on there now, but I like it and that's what matters to me. But You know, I think keep it bright, keep it sensible, especially if you're intending on selling the house when you're decorating. Just make it something that's going to be appealing to a lot more people.
I once walked into a house and it was completely painted black top to bottom, including the kitchen and the appliances and the floors. And I thought, what's going on here? And he says, well, my wife accused me of the house being dirty one day and black. So he says, I painted the whole place black. And he says, well, it's black now, isn't it? I still sold the house though.
Yeah, I think if you've got the fresh paint smell will always go down well. It's a bit like fresh tar or fresh creosote. But, you know, if you've got white painted woodwork, make sure it's not a dingy yellow colour.
Yeah.
You know, make it nice and bright and fresh. If you've got stairs in your house, quite often you'll get a little crack down the side of the stairs where the stringer attaches to the wall. Make sure that's you've put some filler in that, some caulk, freshly painted. Because when people are going up the stairs, I look at things like that.
I get it completely. I'll go back to yesterday. I walked into the bathroom, and the bath panel where it met the tiles were actually they'd all been obviously broken to fit.
Yeah.
And there was no sealer there, so it just looked like it was half finished. And I said, you probably need to just put a bit of silicone in there just to seal that up. And he says, well, funny enough, we had the panel off because there was a small leak under the bath. And I went, yeah, I get it straight away. But I noticed it straight away as soon as I walked in the bathroom, and yet the bathroom was pristine. It was beautiful. They had just done a conversion 2 or 3 years back, you know, so it was really nice. But it was the first thing I saw when I walked in the door, and I thought, and it just gave me that impression, if that's what that's like, is there anything else like that?
Yeah, you got to be careful. And ultimately, sellers or landlords out there, when you're going around giving them advice like that, you just got to be not take offense to it, because ultimately we're there to get you sold and get you into your dream home or the place that you want to go as well. So just take the advice on board, because at the end of the day, we're there to give you advice and help you get to where you want to be. I would just say it's a careful thing to do about that.
I remember.
I had somebody that felt offended when I went round in East Neuk. They felt really offended because I pointed out certain things, but it was like, no, I only pointed them out because that's what's probably going to come up on your home report. I mean, the property was of a certain age, therefore it had inherent woodworm, which is obviously not active anymore, but the woodworm was still there. The holes, they don't disappear. It's not like your teeth and they fill up again. The holes were still there. So as a result, I just says, look, you've got inactive woodworm there. It'll come up on a home report. And she felt that I was actually criticising the house. And I was like, no, I'm just telling you it's going to come up in the home report. That's all, to give you the right advice so you know and prepare yourself for that. But it shouldn't affect the valuation of your property if you've got a certificate to say it's been sprayed, because nobody will bother about it. But it is one thing that frightens a lot of buyers off sometimes when they see that remark on a home report. It says, you know, it had evidence of wood borer infestation from several years ago. Make sure there's active certificates in place. And it's like some people run for the hills, and it's like, no, that's a standard. That's almost like a cut and paste that they put in for every single property of a certain age on a home report, isn't it?
Yeah, a home report. I was actually speaking to guys at Shepherd's a few days ago about someone had a few questions about the home report. But home reports, if property is a certain age or a certain style, they have certain paragraphs that they need to have in the home report if it is a certain age or if there is a certain something at the property. So it's not that it's a criticism, it's that is the law, and they need that for their insurance.
Just reflective of the current position of the property, but it's up to your estate agent to make sure they're savvy enough to actually to word that in a certain way to the buyer in order to let them understand that it's not as frightening as that statement says. Yeah. And that's our job. That's what we do. You know, so colour and depth, I think we've explored that, and getting the right things and the door mirrors to reflect back, and probably actually just open the curtains a bit more to let more natural light in. And if you've got, for example, the net curtains, possibly even consider taking the net curtains down, because they do act as, it's almost like the fog. You know, when the sun's out, the fog just makes the place look a bit dimmer. And it's exactly the same experience when you get in. You've got net curtains on a window. It's great for privacy, but not great for the impression that people get when they first walk in the room if it's a bit darker. And actually keep all the lights on as well, even during the day. That's another top tip.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah, because
sorry, Sandra, carry on.
I would say, if the sun goes away, if it's out while you're viewing a house and sun goes away, and you don't have the lights on, you say, "Oh, who put the lights out?"
I've often walked out the back as well, and my reaction lenses have actually turned dark. So when I've walked back into the house, I went, somebody put the lights out here. It's like, no, I've still waiting for my glasses to change back. So, I mean, that takes us nicely on to things like, nab a newspaper. I mean, newspaper, it's not just for property advertising. The internet's obviously your friend for that. But if your winter rain spattered windows are covered in dirt, then really a spring vibe is all about cleaning and the ping in every area. So get the newspaper and vinegar. I mean, this is an old trick from years and years ago, where it was like, we're not going to go down to the shop and pay a fortune to buy a cleaner from the shop. It's like, we'll just get newspaper and we'll get a bit of vinegar or your local window cleaner to polish your windows to a high shine inside and make sure your mirrors are likewise are dust-free, streaks and baby fingerprints to give you a smooth, glistening look to your home. Is there any other things that we should explore on that, about the mirrors and the windows and the everything?
I think the key one is just if you've got children, trust me, if you have got fingerprints and stuff like that on your windows and your mirrors, no one's gonna criticize you for that because you got children. Because, well, trust me, I know. Well, everybody will know how hard it is. But just for that first impression, and we'll keep going back to curb appeal, but it will make a difference. But as I said, no one will take offense to it because you got a couple of handprints on the windows, or what is the thing that they normally do on the windows and stuff like that.
It's because they copy their dad.
And one of the other ones is light switches, I would say. Clean your light switches. Mm-hmm. Light switches often get a wee bit ingrained, so it's best to take a wee bit, maybe a wee Brillo pad or something like that, if that's what you call it, the wee wire pads, and then just
not a wet one.
Obviously. Just a damp one, and just rub it down to just get it clean again. Just get these wee fingerprints off, and then your doors as well. On your door handles, either side of the handle itself. You've often got marks where people have just opened the door continuously over time. Instead of actually going for the door handle, they've just used either top or bottom of the door handle itself.
Yeah. I would agree.
I found that big wipes are really good for getting small marks off walls, and it doesn't work on biro, but it does, just sort of like the scuff marks, maybe from shoes or feet or anything like that.
And other things as well, if you've got stainless steel, ovens, extractors, anything like that, the top tip, the cleaners glistening one, or even a stainless steel sink, and you think it's not just pristine, is to touch a wee bit of baby oil on paper. So it's basically a kitchen roll, a wee bit of baby oil, and just give it a nice wipe with baby oil. Just an initial, just a wee. I'm not really sure what you call it. Just a top surface of it. And it takes all your streaks away on your stainless steel, so it makes it look pristine for the viewing.
You can get your stripes again, Andrea.
Yes.
It effectively takes all that away. I mean, it's a fantastic tip, and I've learnt that from cleaners from years ago when they used to go in to do cleans on new homes. It's the first thing they would do with the stainless steel appliances to get all the streaks out. They would just put a wee bit of baby oil and then just wipe it in with a duster. And it brings it up glistening. So if anybody's watching, try that now, and you'll be amazed.
You're right, though, because people clean. You can tell people that are clean stuff sometimes, but you can just see the marks where they've cleaned it. You know what I mean? So you can see it's clean, but you have the marks there.
Or you've used a cleaner on your product, on your actual appliance, and it's ruined it. It's actually it's burnt it a wee bit. They burnt the surface. And you'll never get it back again. And the baby oil trick actually restores that back to its glistening look. So it's a nice thing to do. You
remember drying off that newly cleaned floor in Anstruther, I think it was, Jim, or somewhere. And you were live on video cleaning the floor.
do what it takes. If that's what it is. We've often talked about this before. Tidying up people's dirty washing, putting all in the basket, pairs of pants and stuff like that. If it gets the house sold, it gets the house sold. That's it. Nobody wants to walk into a bedroom or, you know, wherever it is and actually see all these things lying about. So, you know, if we can help out and do that. I've even taken dirty dishes and put them all in and then put them into a cupboard. Thank goodness nobody opens the cupboards. And then just put them in the cupboard in the bowl and then taking them back out and then just put them back in the sink again. I've often, you know, done all that and cleaned up and then taken the washing in, you know, stuff like that. So get the basket out, take the washing and it's dry, stick it in the laundry and that's it done. It's anything to make it happen and let people see how good the property is. I mean, that brings me on to the fabric conditioning. And I mean conditioning, not conditioner. So fabric conditioning. If your curtains or blinds look in need of help hoovering with a handheld high-powered vacuum can take a lot of surface dust off. This is a big thing as well, isn't it? For people with big, heavy curtains, they'll usually leave a lot of surface dust on them. And it will actually give it a surprisingly good result on both wooden blinds as well and heavy drapes. Any drab-looking washable curtains really should be laundered, dried, ironed, and rehung. And I know it takes a bit of time to do that, but it's worth the effort just to give that impression. It could mean the difference between somebody making an offer and not making an offer, just because of something so simple as that. It could make the difference between somebody offering you £5,000 or £10,000 more. And it's like, wait a minute, how long are you going to take to do that? So this is how I think as an accountant previously, and I, as a numbers guy. Okay, so you're at this point in time. If you do these certain things, whatever it is, it will take maybe a day. It will take 10 hours, say. So if it takes you 10 hours and you could possibly get an extra £10,000 on your end result for your property, you've just paid yourself £1,000 an hour. I wouldn't mind £1,000 an hour.
So
that's the logic. That's how I look at it. That's how I look at things. It's the time, it's the reward that you would get as the result, and you've effectively, if that's the result, you're paying yourself £1,000 an hour. Who wouldn't want to pay £1,000 an hour?
Who wouldn't?
Who wouldn't want £1,000 an hour? Aye, exactly. You've not put your hand up, Andrea. So see when it comes to salary reviews.
I would want £1,000 an hour. Not wouldn't. I was going to say
want £1,000 an hour.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure if I can go back to living on £1,000 an hour.
I was going to say there that in days gone by, you maybe remember it, Jim. Not from your young childhood, that some people would actually have a winter set of curtains for their properties, and they would go, as soon as it turned to autumn time, the summer stuff would come down and the heavy winter curtains would go up, the darker cushion covers would go on, the rugs would get changed. I think that reflects more back to drafty windows.
I think that reflects more back to, did you live in a stately home at some point in time, Andrea? It's like, was there a big house by any chance and a huge fireplace? It was the size of somebody's living room. Is that where your backgrounds come from?
And the servants changed the curtains for you.
And you rang a bell to get service every day from the room that you were in. I remember that.
I went in a lovely home in Leven actually this week, and they needed restored, but they had a ringer for the old servants and one other thing, and it had a little bell they had the bell in the dining room for the servant to come in, make them their tea and stuff like that. It was quite quirky. It was awesome, actually.
I went to Lord and Lady Elgin's house. Lord and Lady Elgin, for anybody that knows, are descendants of Robert the Bruce. And they live just outside Kirkcaldy and in this big stately manor. And I'll tell you what, the fireplace, I could literally fit my living room in it. And I just sat there and went, wow. And it was some experience, I'll tell you. And then they talked about when we take everybody out for shooting and we take the dogs out for it. It's like the dogs are like big Hound of the Baskervilles. Dogs just like, oh my God. But I tell you what, this was some house. Absolutely brilliant. I was lucky enough to meet Sir Tom Farmer as well, which was a great experience for me to meet somebody, one of my idols from younger. I looked up to. Anybody that knows, Sir Tom Farmer was the founder of Quick Fit, the empire, the motor empire. Okay. So fabric for your curtains, I mean, that's really key there to do all that as well. And I think as well, when I talk about fabric conditioning, I'll talk about the smells as well that you have in your house. I mean, it's key when you think about the logic of this is what do you smell when you first walk in the door? So my top tip is go down to Home Bargains and get these wee 3-pack air fresheners, the gel air fresheners. You get them for about £1, maybe 79 pence or whatever it is. And you just peel them off and stick them at the back of your doors so no one sees them. It is the easiest trick in the book. And you put them at the back of everything. You put one in every room. And when somebody walks in, the first impression, I mean, what impression do you get when you watch a fabric softener advert for lavender? It's spring, isn't it?
Relaxing as well.
Yeah.
Lavender's relaxing.
It's spring. It's all these things. And lemon fresh, you know, they talk about on the television. It's the classic. It's all these little things that condition us socially into thinking in certain ways so we can use that to our benefit when we set up a house or anybody sets up a house for a viewing. You know, you can put all these things in place to get somebody. Jimmy, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, when you say setting up a house, as an agent, what I like to do is guide them around the house and ultimately end up in the feature room or what I would say the selling point of the house, whether that be the back garden or the lounge with a feature fireplace or one of the bedrooms which has the best view. So that's where I want to end up. So having air freshener in, say, that room, so they get the smell, they get the one of the key selling points of the house is key.
The key is not to do an air freshener so it overpowers them when they walk in the door.
Yeah,
for some people, it's like you're coughing and spluttering, and it's like you're almost suffocating because they've just sprayed it and it's all going into your lungs. You know, that's effectively what's happening. So, you know, make sure it's something you've got there. I mean, you know, I've seen a lot of viewers do scented candles as well.
Yeah,
you know, it's a nice wee thing, just a scented candle, even in a bedroom or that, on a sideboard or something, while you're taking people around on the viewing, and it just eludes that smell. You know, the cinnamons or the lavenders, as I said, or just the freshness. It gives that distinct impression. I would love to live here. You know, that's that sort of thing, and it all ties into all the emotions that you've been conditioned over a period of time, as I said, from television programs, from property renovation programs, to say that if you smell these smells and if you see these things, then that gives you the distinct impression somebody's made an effort on this house. You know, you said it yourself, Andrea. Paint is a huge. I mean, literally, you could just a can of paint and waft the smell around the house. You could probably even get an aerosol. It's the smell of paint and just spray it.
It's like the car air freshener, new car smell.
I was going to say that. That's exactly what popped into my head, is exactly what you said, Andrea, is the car salespeople, they don't actually sometimes clean the car. They've got a new car smell at the spray into the car, into the footwells and that. So when you get your car for the first time, they spray it in just before you're about to get it. So you get in and go, oh, it's new. And it's like, well, it's not really. It's second hand, but you think it's new.
I was going to say, we used to have one of those automatic air fresheners, you know, that would just squirt it out every sort of half an hour or whatever. But I had to get rid of it because every time I passed it, it would go off suddenly. It would scare the life out of me, especially at night.
I think they're just designed to make more money out of you. You know, it's like your refrigerator. This is me and my high horse about costs, and I'm really geeky about this. My refrigerator has a filter in it for the water, but it's on a timer every 6 months to say that you're going to have to change it. But the reality is, the amount of water we drink out the refrigerator that uses the filter is very minimal over that 6 month period. So why do I need to change it? Because it tells me. So when you think about it, if there's millions of people around the world with the same filter, and every 6 months it's telling you to change it, even though you don't need to, how much money are they making just for old rope? You know, that's the reality. Yeah. Just because they put it on timer. So I'm not a big fan of, you know, you've got to have it done then, you've got to have it done then. It's like your car. It's like you've got a classic car, okay? you get it MOT, you get it serviced, and then it sits in the garage, and you take it out a couple of times, maybe for a drive, and you love it, and you look after it, and it almost becomes an obsession and a collector's item. You don't really want to take it out. It's just something you can sit in a fire and do something with. You know, it's a hobby. But a year later, the garage sends you an invitation, says, by the way, your car needs a service. It's like, well, I've only had it for 20 miles in a year. Why do I need a service? Oh, because we say so. And it's like, well, wait a minute. That's social conditioning. So you have to think about, is that cost necessary? You know, these are the sort of, how did we get on this?
I had no idea. Fresh car smell, I think it was. Anyway, I was going to say quite an important
way out
thing.
there, hello, the train left the station and I went on a journey.
Just going back to having your house smelling nice, I would say that one of the important things to remember is if you're a pet owner, whether it's dogs, cats, bearded dragons or whatever, some flowers and some of these plug-in air fresheners are completely toxic to your pets. So think really carefully about which ones you get.
Yeah. I mean, James Watson actually says it quite well. He's got a bread maker for viewings. Chopped it. So he'll probably just take it round. I take it this is what you do, James, and you just stick the bread maker in, chuck it on its cycle, and by the time you've finished all your viewings for that day, I've got bread. So you've got two things at once. That's two jobs at once.
He's maybe got Paddy Murphy from Camberwick Green doing all the viewings.
Jimmy, you're way over Jimmy's head. Jimmy has no idea who you're talking about Camberwick Green.
You don't know what you're missing.
Trumpton, Jimmy? Anybody? Pew Pew, Bartley McGrew, Cupar, Double Grub? No.
Captain Snort from Pippin Fort?
No. Finger Mouse? Wooden Chops? Mary Mungo and Midge?
Yes, yeah.
All right, let's not get sidetracked. Okay, so I mean, you know, that it is key, and it is all these wee things. Even the shops, when you think about it, actually, the big supermarkets employ people actually to put centers. You know, just like what you said about automatic scents, actually set off immediately when people are in certain areas of the supermarket, and it's to be quite emotive. So I didn't think they would ever do it at the fish counter, to be honest. Or
the nappy area.
I think that just does it in its own right. Yeah. Although, I mean, when you think about the logic of this, and this is off the beaten track, fish aren't meant to smell. They only smell because it's going off. So the very fact that your fish is smelling fishy means it's maybe been kept for quite a long time. Because in essence, it's not really meant to be a strong smell at all. So it's just one of these things I've picked up over time in that useless information trail, if that makes sense. And the trick, James actually says it. That's the trick. Arrange a viewing around the same time. Bread makers baking. Surely a few people would show interest and offers being made. As a top tip, we might actually just go on and order a whole load of bread makers. And then we could just bring the bed back to the office and then just have our lunch.
Can only do for you in the morning.
Yeah, we'll have to time it so we can get the right timer as well, just to make that coincide. But ultimately, it's also planned for the worst. I mean, after all, really, it's Britain, isn't it? Crisp and sunny spring days are eminently possible and utterly delightful, but we also get a lot of rain, which means there's a chance of dirty shoes. From your own running around the park to getting caught in a shower to the day of walking in the woods. It's wise to plan for every eventuality, which means having somewhere your viewers can wipe their feet. It's a big thing for me. See, when I walk into a house and there's no doormat, and it's like I feel really uncomfortable with the fact that I say, look, I'm going to take my shoes off. And they're going, no, it's all right. Don't take your shoes off. And I'm like, I just can't go around your house with your beige carpets on, knowing that I've not wiped my feet, and I might, because it's just a thing for me. So it's not about how you feel as the seller. Sometimes it's more about how you make the buyer feel as well. So leave their shoes and hang their coats and umbrellas at the door so they're not walking around with them. If you've got a vestibule, just say, just put it in there, just, whatever. Even have your foot covers. I mean, we have foot covers for certain houses as well. When we do have that situation, we just pull the foot covers out the car and just leave a whole load of them. I did it on Apple Tree Cottage in Upper Largo. I do it on another few properties as well. It's just part of what I do. Heavy duty foot covers, not your wee flimsy things. And you can easily get them. You could order them next day delivery, actually, off of all good online stores. I'm not going to say who that one is. that one that lives in the jungle. And their shoes are hanging on coats and umbrellas. And you could actually buy it possibly from your local trader if they've got something like that. Although it'll not be something you would keep all the time, I suppose. But I tell you what, if we keep asking them for all the time, they'll probably stock them. So doing this right will show every potential buyer just how well your house copes with the everyday essentials. Seemingly simple, yet often hard to realise task. And it sets the scene for the rest of the viewing. You know, I mean, you know, is that any other top tips in that then? So about planning for the worst. You talked about, Andrea, about, you know, the sun disappears.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, if you've got good lighting in your house, I mean, I'm surprised now that so many houses are being built with just sort of sidewall lighting, or, you know, you don't have a big light anymore in the house like they used to. I was like, go and put the big light on. Everybody knows what you're talking about. So the main light.
Home again.
Yeah. So I just think you don't, and the bulbs that are in your lights as well. You if you do put the light on, you want to get an instant light. You don't want to have to hang around for, say, right, we'll put the light on in 5 minutes and then come back and look at the room. That is just going to put people off. So be prepared. Have decent light bulbs in your house. Have the lights on ready for the viewing, and you know, hopefully the sun will be out and nobody will notice if there's a dull corner. Light
bulbs is a big thing as well, isn't it? I mean, when you go around a house and you see somebody and they've got maybe 6 light bulbs in their chandelier.
Back to my stately
home. They've got 6 light bulbs on their lighting chandelier or whatever it is, and 3 of them are out. It just gives the wrong impression. Mm-hmm. So make sure that one of the other things is make sure you replace all the light bulbs, but don't have yellow ones and white ones in the same thing. Because it's like, oh no, it just gives people the wrong impression. It's like, I'm just going to make excuse the word, a half-arsed effort at it, you know, to do it. So you've got 3 yellow ones and you've got 3 daylight ones, which look completely different colours, and it mixes up the colour of your room as well. Because I'm a big fan of daylight bulbs, because daylight bulbs actually show what the natural naked eye can see. So when you go outside and look at a colour outside, it is a completely different look and a colour as you look at it inside, because your bulbs are often what they were. They had a yellow tinge in them or an opaque tinge, and it actually makes the colour of your walls look different than what you see outside. So I'm a big fan of daylight light bulbs, because it's when you've got them on, even during the day, no one realises you've got them on because there's no colour to them. But they actually brighten up everything in the room, and they make all the colours look vivid and vibrant as a result of and it gives the right impression. That's why I'm a big fan of daylight, you know, and we have that in offices as well, you know, just for its natural light. It's mimicking.
Yeah,
you often notice when you're out walking, well, when I'm out walking the dog at night, a lot of people don't bother closing curtains or blinds, and you can just see how bright their rooms look. And I think, gosh, I wonder what kind of light bulbs they've got, because that's really good. And then other ones you go to think, oh, that looks quite warm and cozy, and they've got more mood lighting in. So all my neighbours, if they're watching this just now, will be starting to close their blinds and curtains.
Mood lighting's a big thing as well, isn't it? You know, that's a huge thing as well, to have the right lights. You know, I walk in my mum's front door now and it's like a disco. She's got one of these LED lights that changes colour all the time.
That's what we had someone.
She must know you like the 70s.
We had someone in Ladybank. He had you talk about the big light in the room, Andrea. They had down lighting in in the lounge and stuff, and he had ones that changed it. You could set it to like 7 different colours.
Effectively. Yeah, guys. Final thoughts. I mean, we're at the hour now. Oh. So, final thoughts. What's your thoughts on it? You know, final advice that you would give anybody.
Make your house if you're going to sell your house, have it as you would want to see the house you're buying. That's good advice. Wow, good. Profound. We could have saved ourselves a lot of bother if you just come on and said that, and we could have gone out.
That could have been the show in 10 seconds. We've taken an hour to get to 10 seconds worth.
It's been fun.
Jimmy, final thoughts?
Yeah, along the same lines of Andrea, if you're selling your home, think of the reasons what made you buy the home in the first place, because that's could be the key point of why someone else wants to buy the home. And obviously, clean, tidy, fresh, and remember to be. You never know when the buyer's going to be walking past your house or even looking at your house. To just make sure as soon as you have made the decision that you're ready, basically 24/7, you're ready for that buyer to walk past you.
Yeah, ultimately, yeah, that's absolutely it. I mean, all these little details compound to get you a fantastic result. So if you found, I mean, for anybody watching, if they found these tips helpful and useful, please share them with someone else. As ever, if your property across Fife and you'd like to talk about any aspect of selling or spring or moving or in general, just get an idea, we've got a great instant valuation tool, which gives you a fantastic result straight away without actually speaking to someone. Often people don't want to speak to anybody, so our instant valuation tool on our website gives them a ready reckoner about the bottom end, the top end, and the midpoint as to value the property, and it's pretty accurate. It's pretty spot on. So that's another one that you could do. So, you know, if you are going to be doing that, please feel free to get in touch. You can still message us here. We always pick up messages anyway, day, night, evening, whatever time it is. We'll always pick up something and respond to you, even in a private message as well. So that's it. Thanks very much for coming on the show, Andrea. Thanks, Jimmy, for coming on the show. And thanks everybody else for watching. And we'll see you all next week on the Fife Property Show.